Right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this afternoon's BookTastic. It's our second event. Our first this morning was the amazing Steve Cole, who was, as usual, energetic and funny and very musical and gave us lots of entertainment. We've got a fantastic lineup this year. As I said, we've already had Steve. I want to say thank you to all the artists who agreed to participate, even though we couldn't do the physical festival, and to the publicists and the publishers who've worked with us to make sure that this pandemic didn't affect us and put a stop to the annual book festival. And of course, everybody out there watching this live, thank you to all the subscribers. Thank you to everybody who followed us on social media. We've been completely overwhelmed by the support for the book festival, and unbelievably we smashed our target to hit 1,000 subscribers to the YouTube channel. So thank you to everybody for keeping the BookTastic flag flying. We're delighted that the festival is fully accessible this year, and hopefully you're going to be able to see the live captioning going across the screen, which is amazing. Quick bit of housekeeping before we start. As you know, BookTastic is a not-for-profit event, and all the revenue from our festival every year goes right back into the festival to make sure we can deliver the event year after year. Obviously, this online event is being delivered free of charge. We don't have a paywall, which means that obviously we're losing our usual source of funding. So thank you to everybody who's already clicked on the Eventbrite link and bought a ticket for this event. And if you like what you see and you'd like to support the festival, we'll put the link up so that you can buy a virtual ticket and help support us that way. Anyway, that's enough from me. So I know you're all really here to see Vashti, and I'm particularly excited. We first met a couple of years ago when Vashti came to Bedford to talk about her first book, Brightstone, which went down amazingly well with the schools across Bedford and has been one of our best sellers in the shop. Most people who've come into Rogan's books have had it pushed at them at one point or another. And amazing news when Vashti's second book, Wild Spark, won this year's Blue Peter Book Prize, which was incredible. We were so excited for her. And now we have the second book in the Brightstone series, Dark Whispers. So if you're signed in, you're going to be able to post questions for Vashti all the way through the event. Just use the chat function alongside the screen and we'll get through as many as possible. If there's anything you want to know, anything you'd like to share with Vashti, anything you'd like her to share with us or share any of her insights, just ask the questions, post them alongside the YouTube live stream, and I'll collect them all up. And then at the end, I'm going to pass them over and Vashti and I will do a quick Q&A. Now, obviously, we would love to give Vashti a huge round of applause to welcome her as we would normally, but we're unable to do that virtually. So if you could hit the like button, then Vashti's going to be able to see how many of you are out there. Maybe let us know what your name is, where you're watching from, and give us a sense of community and give us an idea about who's watching, where you're watching from, and what audience we have with us today. So without further ado, let me see if I can make this work. I'm going to bring in Vashti by the magic of technology. Let's see, is this gonna work? Oh, ask to start video.
Oh yeah, it's come up.
Yay! Yay! Oh, it's lovely to see you. I'm particularly excited by the Blue Peter badge.
You know what? I'm gonna have to keep flicking my hair behind my shoulder. I've only worn it. This is the first time since I received it at the beginning of March. Thank goodness that was before lockdown, because imagine if I hadn't got to actually go on Blue Peter and collect this in person. So how lucky am I?
We are incredibly lucky, and I was so excited to have you here. So without further ado, I'm going to get rid of me because I am entirely unnecessary for this stage of the proceedings. And
for now.
And yeah, hit the like buttons and ask the questions, and I'm going to hand you over to Vashti.
Lovely, thank you, Rachel. So, good afternoon, everybody out there. Do you know what? I really wish I could see all your faces, but I'm hoping there are big smiles and blue skies and happy Saturdays, maybe some cake where you are. There's no cake where I am. That's an oversight. I should have bought cake. Never mind. Felicity Wiggity would have bought cake, wouldn't she, to this? But it's lovely that we can make this happen in this strange new lockdown world that we've entered. And do you know what? How important is reading at the moment for people? Because, you know, you can pick up a book. I just happen to have my own here. Right, so you can pick up a book and you can escape to wherever you want to. Actually, it's one of the reasons when I was at school, I fell in love with books because they could take me to different places, to different worlds. And we didn't have much money growing up, so we didn't go on fancy holidays or anything. So to me, adventuring in a book, escaping to some other world was like having a holiday for me. So we might not be able to go anywhere at the moment, but we can, kind of, through the magic of books. They're like little portals for us. So Brightstone, my first book, which, as Rachel so brilliantly introduced, was about 2 years ago when I went to Bedford and we visited some schools and things. I've been to lots of schools since then and wonderful festivals and book awards. I'm going to say a big hello actually to Tom and Lucy out there, who are the original Brightstone twinnies. And in Dark Whispers, if you look in the front, the dedication is for Tom and Lucy, who I was lucky enough to meet last year in Leeds at the Book Awards. So hi, Tom and Lucy. They really are real life Arthur and Maudie Brightstone's brilliant, inspirational, go-getter twins that have a really positive relationship with each other. Often in books, twins might be seen as maybe not liking each other, even sometimes trying to kill each other in books. But when I was writing Brightstone, I thought I'd like twins portrayed really positively, and siblings that actually, you know, they might have their ups and downs, but at the end of the day, they're really there for each other when it counts. So if you've not come across my books yet, so Brightstorm is, it's inspired by my own love of explorers and adventurers in real life. So since a young age, I've been a bit obsessed with people like Ernest Shackleton, Amelia Earhart, Edmund Hillary, all these people that have gone out in the real world and have achieved amazing things. I love the idea that we all feel a bit ordinary at times, but all of us inside have the capacity to do something extraordinary, whatever your extraordinary is. Now, it might be something really small, it might not be climbing a mountain like Edmund Hillary or something, or going to Antarctica. It might be, you know, an achievement for you might be playing for your school football team, or I don't know, designing something, a fashion outfit or something when you're older. But everybody has their different extraordinary. It might be Peter Badge like me. That totally made my year achieving that. So some people achieve amazing things. Now, I love explorers. So one day, probably about 10 years ago, I was in a bookshop and I found this book called A Teacup in a Storm. And I bought it because, as you can see on the cover, there's an explorer doing a headstand somewhere that looks a bit like Antarctica probably. And it just struck me as completely bonkers. And I love that strangeness of you know, that quirkiness that you have of people, even in extreme situations, there's always a bright side and hope and humour amongst all the perseverance. And that's sort of what I wanted to get into Brightstone. So I was reading this book and I came across an advert in it that Ernest Shackleton, this is over 100 years ago, he placed, apparently, some people say this advert is true, some people say it's not, but I like to believe it is. But Ernest Shackleton, before he went to Antarctica in his transantarctic expedition, he had to find a crew to take with him. Now, he placed an advert in the newspaper and the advert reads like this. Men wanted. I've just got to pause there because these days we wouldn't do that, would we? We'd say people wanted, women and men wanted, for hazardous journey. Small wages, bitter cold, long months of complete darkness, constant danger, safe return, doubtful, honour and recognition in case of success. Ernest Shackleton for Burlington Street. I read that advert instantly. Well, my first thought was, who would be bonkers enough to reply to that advert? Because it sounds really dangerous, sounds like you might die, doesn't it? And, not much chance of coming back. But also, secondly, I thought, I'd be a bit tempted. It sounds very adventurous and, there's glory through all the difficulty there. And then I thought, what would make a child reply to that advert? In fact, what would make two children, maybe twins, reply to an advert like that? Something really sort of important must be driving them to answer that, to go. And then Arthur and Maudie, Brightstone, the twins, the main characters of the Brightstone adventures, popped into my head and their situation with their father, who's an explorer, who's sadly lost his life in the South Polaris. And they're told a story of what's happened to him, but they think this isn't true. We don't believe that this is what really happened. And the only way that they can prove it is if they follow in his footsteps, join up with the crew of the Aurora on a skyship, because, if you're going to write your own fantasy adventure explorer story, why travel by normal boats? Let's make the impossible possible and travel by skyship. So they go by skyship to find out the truth of what happened and meet all sorts of interesting people and creatures and things along the way. So that's where Brightstone came from. In fact, if you like writing your own stories, I think the best stories, I know the best stories come from our own passions and interests. If you take what you love in life and you write about them, or you use them to inspire your writing, you can, do you know what? It never feels like really hard work. I mean, obviously it's hard work, but it doesn't feel really hard. It feels so enjoyable because you're writing about your interests and your passions. So for me, explorers, inventors, science all go into my stories. So Dark Whispers, so we've had the Brightstone adventure, and now the crew are off to a new destination in Dark Whispers. So if you've got actually the first copies of Brightstone and Dark Whispers are really beautiful because they have this lovely map inside of it, which is gorgeous, I think. And the Brightstone, if you're lucky enough to ever find an early edition of Brightstone, they also have the flap on it as well. So if you've got one of those, keep hold of it and treasure it. And if you haven't got Dark Whispers, try and get the early copy with the flap because they're really special. So in Dark Whispers, you can see by the cover, they're going somewhere a little bit different. They're going to the jungle, the rainforests, but the world of the Brightstone adventures isn't planet Earth. There are similarities to planet Earth, but it's quite different as well. It's a different geography, some similar things in the climate, different societies that live there, different creatures. In the world of Brightstone, you get sapient creatures, which are animals that can understand humans very well. Most of them can't communicate back very easily, but some of them have very interesting ways of communicating. If you've read Brightstone, you'll know about the thought wolves who communicate through their thoughts. These are huge, supersized wolves that you can ride on, even if they let you. They're not like pets or anything. They're independent, to be respected creatures. But thought wolves can sort of think, and you can understand what they're saying if you're a child. Not so easy with adults, but children's minds are more open to these things. So Dark Whispers, they're heading to the jungles of the Stella Oceanus in the east. It's off the map of Brightstone, so we're heading further into the east. So there's the map of the Great Wide, and we're going this way off the map into the east of Longtown. And it picks up if you're very astute when you're reading Brightstone, you will notice at the end it says that an explorer has gone missing, Armitage Wigglesworth, in the east somewhere. No one knows what he was up to, what he was searching for maybe, where he's disappeared to, and why he's not been in contact. Now, at the beginning of Dark Whispers, Arthur and Maudie and Harriet Culpeper and the crew decide that they want to try and find out what's happened to him, and they're going to go on an expedition to the Stella Oceanus and see if they can find his last location, see what the mystery is. And they're finding all sorts of strange clues before they go. But our favourite baddie, Eudora Vane, of course, is there as well. And Eudora Vane has organised an armada, a big group of skyships from all the explorer families of the Wide to go off together, because there are thousands of islands in the Stella Oceanus. So they've got a big area to search for Hermitage. So she gets all the explorers together. And the crew of the Aurora think she may be up to something. They don't trust her, but they think we're better off joining up and going along and keeping, keep an eye, keep your enemies close. Is that what they say, isn't it? So they're thinking, we'll keep an eye on her and see what she's up to and see if we can find out ourselves as well. So that's the premise behind the story. And there's lots of surprises along the way as well, and some more sapient creatures. If you've read Dark Whispers already, you'll know if I say to you water bear, you'll know what I mean. I'm going to show you something quite special now. Well, hopefully it's special to me. When if you've seen me talk before, or I've been to your school or anything, you'll know that one of the first things I do before I've even written a word is oh gosh, did you hear my husband sneeze in the background? Excuse him. That's a loud sneeze. So you'll know that I draw a map before I've written a word down, because I like to build my worlds and imagine what they can be like. This is my big sketch pad that I use to draw my worlds, and this is the map that I drew of. Didn't have a name then. It was called, I just called it the Eastern Isles, but it's a problematic name, because east of what, east to who? It needs its own name. It's only east from the perspective of those in Longtown. So this became the Stella Oceanus, and I drew every single little island and gave them all names and things in that. So if you like creating your own world, I would say this would be great to do on lockdown. Get yourself a sketchbook or some scrap paper and start drawing maps of your worlds and start creating them. You can also draw the things that are going to go wrong for your characters along the way, or the difficulties they'll need to overcome. And you'll find it's a great way of plotting your story without having to put pen to paper yet. So there's a sneaky look. And then that is taken by the publisher and turned, my wonderful publisher, Scholastic, and turned into a beautiful map for the book. So, Dark Whispers. You might be asking to yourself, what are the Dark Whispers, Vashti? What do you mean by Dark Whispers? Where's the title from? Now, without giving away too much, the Dark Whispers are sapient creatures of the Wide. A bit unlike any of the other sapients that you're going to meet in your journey of the Wide. I like to think there are sapients and there are super sapients. So you've got the thought wolves, they're kind of like sapients that are a bit extra. And you have things like the Dark Whispers, and there's maybe another super sapient that you're going to meet in Dark Whispers. I'm going to read you a short extract that gives you a hint as to what the Dark Whispers are and what you can expect from them. Now, in this scene, it's about a third of the way through the book, and Arthur is on the Aurora, but he's below the deck in a secret little compartment, and he's looking up through the cracks in the deck at something that is going on above that is quite disturbing. A strange whispering sound filled the air, a soft, hushed murmur. What are they? I can't see. They're everywhere. Look, did you see the size of their claws? There was the shriek of wind, as though something sliced through it at great speed. Arthur pressed his eye to the gap, where he could see a narrow section of the scene above. A dark shape circled them, too fast to see. Heads whipped around in all directions, searching frantically. There's something out there. Then he saw it again. Then another, and another. Some sort of flying creatures circled them, their wings slapping through the air like sodden leather. It was too difficult to see in the thick gloom of cloud, but they were getting closer. 3. No, 5. No, there are at least 10. "Get below deck," someone yelled. They all ran for the hatch. So there, you get a little inkling of what the Dark Whispers might be, but I will leave that for you to discover if you haven't already. So I thought I'd give you a few tips for writing your own fantasy adventures, because in lockdown, we can't get out very easily. We can't, escape to the jungle. Very difficult to do anyway, actually, isn't it? You can't just pop on a plane and go to the jungle. It's quite expensive. We don't all have the resources to do things like that. I certainly don't. But it doesn't mean you can't all write about these things really effectively and really brilliantly by using a few clever little things that we've got available to us. I kind of, this is the best I can recreate the jungle here, is my little my little plant and my lovely balloon Dark Whispers lamp from Zora. Hello, Zora, if you're out there. So other ways that we can do it really cleverly, because I like to think, fantasy, creating these amazing settings is for everyone. Doesn't matter. It's not about money. It's not about traveling to these places. You can make them as real as you want them to be by doing a few clever things. So firstly, you can create the maps and things. You can watch lots of adventure programs and if you know me, you'll know that I'm a big fan of this person, Bear Grylls. Perfect. If you want to write adventure stories in exotic and different and dangerous locations, watch yourself some Bear Grylls on YouTube or on the TV. Read some of his books as well. He's written some great adventure books, and you can find out all about things. If I'm watching an episode of Bear Grylls, say in the jungle or something, I've got my notepad out and I'm writing down what's happening to him and all the dangers that he's describing, and most importantly, how to get the characters out of those situations. So if Bear Grylls is walking through the mangroves, well, not walking, climbing through the mangroves, if you've read Dark Whispers, you'll know there's a place called Mangrove Island that they have to go to. I've never been to the mangroves. I don't know what it feels like to be in them. I don't know the dangers. So I needed to do some really good research in order to make it real for the readers and have some good, facts to include in the story and dangers. So I watched these programs. I watched Bear Grylls climbing through the mangroves and listened to all the things that he was saying about the difficulties and what you had to look out for, little facts about the amounts of bacteria in the water, what it smelled like there as well. Apparently it smells like rotten eggs and things. But these little things you can put in. But you don't want to use just one source of information. You want to use lots of sources in your research. So another thing that you can do is watch people like David Attenborough and the nature programs. So you can find out about creatures and adapt those if you want to in different environments and dangers as well. Books with facts, of course, you can. It'd be a bit difficult to go to the library at the moment, of course, because they're shut, but you might have some good books at home, or there are online resources that you can get as well, where you can look up facts about places like the jungle or the Arctic and find things. And if you find an interesting piece of information, jot it down and use that in your story. You can as well, there's a great thing called BBC Sound Archive. Now, BBC Sound Archive is free, and what they've done is they've put all the sound effects that they've used in the past for their programmes, they've put them into a big archive and released it for you to download for free. So if you want to know what it sounds like to be in the rainforest, you can go into your search engine and type in BBC Sound Archive, go to their site and put in rainforest or jungle rainfall, and see what comes up. And you can download for free the sounds and sit and listen to it, and then you can put it into your writing. I didn't know the rainforest was such an orchestra of sound, of chirps and chirps and croaks, and all that can feed into your writing, so you create the atmosphere of your world. So if you want to write about, I don't know, maybe you want to write something that's set in the frozen landscape like Antarctica, you can go and search what it sounds like to be in a snowstorm or something like that, and then listen to it and think of all the words that help you to describe it, and it'll give it a more sort of rounded experience. Another thing you can do is, even if you can't go to exotic locations, we can all go for walks with our family or go to the park. So think about what it feels like to be cold, or what nature feels like. What's it feel like when it's really raining hard, and things like that. And use that in your writing as well. So what else can we use? We can use music, is another good thing to do. Soundtracks are brilliant when you're writing to help inspire and create a sense of place as well. You can find out about animals through books like this too. So say you wanted to, let's have a little think. Say you wanted to find out about the jungle and the jungle creatures. In this book, my Teacup in a Storm book, there's a bit about Percy Fawcett. Percy Fawcett's Tropical Horrors. That's great material for writing, isn't it? And you can find out about the spiders, the vampire fish, the ticks, the piranhas. And I like this one, the Palo Santo tree. I think that's how you say it, Palo Santo tree maybe? This softwood tree grows near riverbanks. It's a favourite haunt of the Brazilian fire ant. The smallest contact can cause armies of ants to descend on an unsuspecting victim. Fawcett noted that local tribes use the Palo Santo as a weapon of torture, tying a prisoner to the tree for several hours. Eek! That sounds terrifying, doesn't it? But also, what an exciting thing to put into your adventure story, to put your characters in a situation where suddenly they're surrounded by these ants. How are they going to get out? How are they going to persevere and use their wit and resilience in order to get out of that situation? So these sort of books are great for things like that. Whilst I'm on the subject of animals in stories as well, you might not know, and I love this, and this is one of the reasons why I chose to have Queenie, the cat, as part of the crew on the flying skyship, the Aurora, is often on expeditions, the crew take a pet with them. Might seem strange, but it's one of those things that's being done. So you have, these are famous expedition pets. You have Nansen, the ship's cat on board the Belgica, which went to the Arctic in 1897. You have Mrs. Chippy. This was on Shackleton's expedition. Mrs. Chippy, the cat, was taken by Tom McNeish, one of the carpenters of the Endurance. Shingle, a dog owned by Victorian climber and alpine historian William Coolidge, who went with her master on alpine outings. Toby, wait for this, the pet pig, taken to the Antarctic in 1903 by French explorer Jean-Baptiste Charcot. And Titina, a fox terrier owned by the Italian explorer and airship designer Umberto Nobile, which is brilliant. So if you're writing an adventure, maybe they can take a little pet along and have some fun with that. Hopefully they'll look after it very, very well though. Now, let's think about something that you could do. I'll go back to Rachel for some questions in a minute, but I was thinking it would be lovely if I gave you maybe a couple of takeaway tasks that might inspire you to pick up a pen or a pencil and do something, create some writing, maybe a story of your own this half-term week. So I was thinking maybe you could choose an environment that exists on planet Earth, and you could make it your own and turn it into a fantasy adventure land. So this is what I do with Brightstone. I choose an environment and I think, okay, how can I change this and adapt it for my world and make it a little bit different? So Brightstone, I took Antarctica and a bit of Alaska and kind of merged them together and then made it my own by coming up with things like the thought walls and different dangers that they meet along the way. With Brightstone, Dark Whispers, I take the rainforest, but it's not any rainforest that we have on our planet. It's my own made up version, but I use facts from real rainforests and pull them in and then change it a bit. So I think of, in Dark Whispers, I think of it as rainforest plus, because they get these huge deluges where the water levels rise very, very quickly. So all the technology, you can see from the back, there's a little hint of it there. The technology and the houses that people live in are adapted for their environment. So they have houses that when the rainstorms hit and the water's rising very, very quickly, they can crank the houses up so that they rise above the water level. There are some that maybe are pods inside the waterfalls that keep them completely protected when the water rises. Some villages that are completely built up in the trees, these enormous trees that have grown to survive in these awful storms. So how about you take an environment and you invent different technology to survive there, different creatures. You can take real creatures that might live in that environment and then tweak it a bit. There's the water bears in Dark Whispers that you can take. I thought, well, you do get some sort of, I was thinking of koala bears, and I was thinking they're quite cute. How can I adapt something like a koala bear that lives maybe partly in the water when the storms come and in the trees? So I came up with the water bears. So have fun, see if you can do that. You could choose volcanic zones, deserts, underwater even, maybe mountainous regions. You can draw a map, start thinking of the dangers that they could find there. Also, remember to try and break those stereotypes down a little bit as well when you're writing. Why not, make sure you use a vast range of characters and try and reflect the world that you see around you. And sometimes if you think of sometimes the first thing that pops into your head for a character isn't always the best thing. You might need to change it. Like if I said to you now, firefighter, you might think of what pops into your head when you think firefighter. Now, if it's a man, think again, why is a man popping up into your head? Females are firefighters too. If something pops into your head, maybe swap it and think, no, in my story, I'm going to have a female firefighter, and things like that. You'll notice in Brightstone and in the world of Wildspark as well, my second book, which is a different world and adventure, you'll notice that I do that a lot. One rule I have is in the worlds that I build, gender's never been a barrier to achievement. So you get a very even base of women and men, girls and boys, equally achieving in the STEM subjects, because that's the world that I would love to see in real life. We've got some way to go yet, but we've got to aspire to these things and do our best as writers. And when you're writing, think of all these things as well. So yeah, see if you can create an amazing adventure location, draw a map for it, maybe start writing the story. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Pinterest is brilliant, actually. If you want to create, say you decide you want to write an underwater adventure. If you haven't discovered Pinterest, ask your parents to show you, or whoever you're living with, ask them to show you Pinterest. And it's a place where you can collect pictures and make boards for your stories or just to inspire you. I do it for every single project that I work on. I use it. I'm quite visual in my imagination. So coming up with what environments could look like, I'm really helped by pictures. You can type in things like flying ship, if you wanted a story with flying ships, different jungle environments and things. Now, just for you, because I knew I was doing this today, my Brightstone board is open to the public, and I've had a Dark Whispers board as well that I've worked on when I was writing it, but I kept it a secret board so not everyone can see it. But I thought, you know what, I'm going to make it public so that you can have a look if you want to see all the pictures that inspired me to write Dark Whispers, all the pictures that helped me imagine what the Dark Whispers would look like, what the jungle would look like, what the houses in the jungle could be like, what the different vehicles that they use, the fantasy vehicles could be. I use Pinterest to help inspire me. So if you want to have a look, go onto Pinterest and you can type in my name and find the board for Brightstone and the board for Dark Whispers now, and have a good old look and see if any of it inspires you, and maybe create your own board too. I feel like I've been chatting away for too long to myself in a weird sort of way, but I know you're out there. You are out there, aren't you? You're all out there. So let's go back to Rachel for some questions.
We're all out here, and everybody has been completely inspired by that. I was just thinking how inspirational I was finding it and listening about all the ways you came up with your ideas. And I'm looking at the questions, and clearly everybody else is hugely inspired by everything.
Yay!
so much. We're never going to get through all of these questions because there are loads, but I'm going to rattle through as many as I can. First of all, you're going to be delighted to hear that the twins, Tom and Lucy, are listening and watching out there in Leeds with their big sister Charlie and their mum and dad, and they say hello.
Oh, hello back.
Bella in Bedford, Sophie in Bedford, Eliza and Eleanor in Carlton in Bedfordshire, a huge wave from the Hawk class at Balliol Primary School here in Bedford. They're all huge fans of
hello back.
Ira in Bedford, Nicholas from Ashford in Kent. Now then, there was another one that I saw somewhere. Oh, Freya and Zola watching from Northern Ireland. So everywhere, people from all over the place.
That's lovely. Do you know what? That's the power, isn't it, of doing a virtual festival. It's like everybody can come no matter how far away.
That's it. No barrier no distance is no barrier. James says he loves Vashti's book and he wants to join the Brightstone.
You can join. You're hired.
Brilliant. Alice is desperate to know if there will be a third story about the Culpeper crew.
Now, do you know? I think so. I have plans. I have jotted down several plans, not just for a third. I've got plans for a few, a few more for this. Because do you know what? Without any spoilers, Eudora's not quite done yet. Not quite done yet, and the Brightstones are not done with her either. Yeah, so there's more to happen with the Sapients. There's more places to explore. There's further lengths that Eudora may or may not go to, and someone's got to be there to stop her. And you know, the twins and the crew of the Aurora and Felicity. Oh, I've got to show you Felicity's lucky. Yes. I said I'd bring it along. So you know, Felicity is there as well to stop her, or try to stop her at least. Will they? Who knows? But there will definitely be more. But I can't say when, I'm afraid, because I'm working on something else at the moment. Well, a few other things. A few other little projects going on. But I promise I will come back and rejoin them. But I'll throw some other stories your way in between.
Fantastic. I know we were talking the other day, and I'm really excited to hear about a couple of projects you've got going on. Can't wait to see those coming out. Next question. You've done an ice location and a tropical jungle. Any other locations that you're going to have the crew face next? Anywhere else you'd like to base book?
Yeah, I'm thinking the volcanic islands of the north. Is a must, because what super sapient could if you've got any ideas, keep pointing below like it's a place. Put them to, give it, you know, where would you like the crew to go? There's underwater. You know, the aqua feeders are busily, you know, they're not interested in skyships, they're busy with the ocean. So what could lie beneath? What super sapients could lie beneath the waves? What interesting things could be there? I think, you know, going back to the Citadel with the Kings, you know, I think it would be nice to spend some more time there in the desert sort of area as well. Maybe venturing westwards of Longtown, the islands that are to the west, the Creole going through the caves. So many places to explore. But tell me where you'd like them to go.
Definitely add your ideas and your thoughts into the comments. We've got loads of love for Dark Whispers here.
Thank you, guys.
Tom, Lucy and Big Sister Charlie would like to ride on Thought Wolves. Lot of love for your model skyship.
That is the wonderful Zora. You can follow Zora. Zora's only 10. Is it your birthday yet? Sorry, she might be 11 now. But Zora and Sarah blogs. You can find them on Twitter or Instagram. But what a creative powerhouse to make this. And it's a real light as well.
Wow!
Go and check out Zora and support her, because she's a creative powerhouse, I always say.
So from Bella, would you say creating fantasy and magical worlds and creatures helps to make your books more interesting and exciting? I'd say yes.
Yeah, I would say so, because you know, real life is quite interesting. But imagine if you could, you know, rather than just going for a walk or on your bike this afternoon, imagine if you think, I'm just going to pop out on the thought wolf. I'm just going to go and fly a firebird around the park today. That's, you know, just take my skyship out for a little run. It is more interesting, isn't it? It's more amazing imagining what if and what could be possible to me, and somehow then it makes real life a bit more interesting as well. So I would say yes.
Definitely. Sophie asked, what inspired you to write the Brightstone series?
Oh, so hopefully I answered that a little bit in the talk. So really it was the explorers and adventurers, but you know, things like when you take your own ideas, if you remember what I said about when you write from your own passions, it doesn't feel so hard. Like for Wild Spark, I love ghost stories, and as you'll know if you know my books, I love science and invention. So I was just thinking, what if I mix the two, ghosts and invention, ghosts and robots? Oh, that could be interesting. And then you start thinking, what could that world be? What are the problems? What are the characters? So Brightstone, explorers, inventions, here we go. Let's see what we can create here. So just ask yourself that, and there you've got a whole story world.
Brilliant. Do you deliberately use, this is a great question, do you deliberately use unusual words in your writing to broaden a reader's vocabulary? Where do you find the interesting words? And that comes from Owen here in Bedford.
Gosh, what a good question, Owen. So I don't think about it too hard. I don't sort of think, oh, let's see if I can challenge the reader here with this word. But I always look for the best word in a situation to do its job. And sometimes you have to work hard. So the first word that comes to you isn't necessarily the best word to sort of get across what you want to in the shortest space. So the thesaurus is my best friend, the online one. When I'm using Word, you know, you can actually, if you don't know this, I taught my daughter the other day this, and she's 20. I couldn't believe she didn't know. But in Word, if you highlight the word, you can find synonyms for it. So other words that are similar to, but mean the same-ish. And if you just have a look, you might find a word that wasn't the obvious one that jumped into your head that you might think, yes, that does it. And I like to challenge myself as well. And when you're reading, do you know what? When you're reading a book, if you see a word that you love, or you think, yeah, that really hits the mark, just jot it down, collect them, get a little book and collect them all the time. I do that. I think, oh, that's good. Yeah, I'll just write that down. You know, maybe I'll use that in my own way sometime. So yeah, challenge yourself to. But then sometimes a simple word is the most effective. So you shouldn't try to use complicated words just because you want to, because they can stick out a little bit and look a bit odd. So you have to find a balance there.
Another great question here from James in Bedford. If you could have a sapient animal for a best friend, what would you pick?
Oh, how lovely. Oh gosh, I wonder what you would all have. I'd love a thought wolf. Because they're, as a friend, having Toya watch your back would be, who wouldn't want that? And I love birds of prey as well, things like eagles. I love owls, quite like an owl, quite fancy an owl, just hopping around. That's quite Harry Potter actually, isn't it? Having a Hedwig, but wouldn't Hedwig be a lovely companion to have? So yeah, I think I'd go for a bird of prey, maybe a dolphin if I was in the ocean.
Oh yeah,
dolphins always, for me, they seem like they're full on sapient anyway in our world, aren't they? They get things.
Okay. Ira asks, did you enjoy story writing as a child?
I did, but it took a teacher in my secondary school sometimes at school it can feel a bit like work, and you lose sight that it can be a fun thing. Of course you have to you have to kind of learn things about vocabulary and sentences and punctuation and grammar and things, but sometimes there's not space to just have fun with it, and you need to give yourself that space. And I had a teacher, very luckily, Mr. Dunham, who was amazing, who gave us a writing journal and said to us, write about whatever you like in here, and I'm never going to mark it. Of course, he marked other work, but
yeah.
it was our space to do whatever we wanted, to have fun without fear of being judged on it. So, you know, obviously you need to have corrections, and that's how, you know, when an editor, when I send my stories to an editor, it comes back full of corrections and suggestions and questions, and that's how we grow as writers. But sometimes you just need a space not to worry about being judged in. So if you feel like that, just get yourself a little writing journal or book and start having fun with it. Draw pictures of your characters. And
the wonderful phrase that that Mrs. Collicott uses, the do some brave writing and just
like that.
Yeah, just
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to, because half of it, like, you know, when I was younger, I knew I wanted to be a writer and that I loved stories and my imagination was huge. But part of me didn't believe it was someone like me could do it. I thought authors were magical. They sat maybe in their lovely, beautiful writing towers, and it flows off their pens magically, and they get it right first time. No, it's not like that for anyone. There's no writer that is like, it's all of us. You know, we get our heads down and we have to, you know, we don't get it right, we revise, we change, and it's a glorious job, but it's tricky too, and it's something that everyone can do. It's not a magic thing. Everyone's got the right. If you love writing, you know, it's not necessarily for anyone that's, you know, you don't have to be really wealthy or anything or famous. You can just do it. Just, you know, have a go and know that you are worthy. If you really love it and you're willing to work hard, then anything's possible.
Yeah, fantastic. Where are we? Felicity's lucky spoon caused lots of smiles when we read Brightstone. Where did that idea come from?
Oh, do you know, I like playing with luck as a thing, because I'll give you an example. So in Harry Potter, you know, there's the scene where Harry wins the luck potion. I always forget the name, something like Felicitas. I'm sure someone will correct me, something like that. But the luck potion, and he wins it. And then Ron has a very important Quidditch match, and he's really nervous. So Harry pours his potion into his drink, except he pretends, he doesn't really. Ron drinks what he thinks is the luck potion, goes and plays Quidditch, does really, really well. And afterwards you discover that Harry only pretended to do that. So I love this idea of, is luck, you know, how you feel, your positivity and what you're bringing to the table, how much does that affect how well you do in your outcome? So is luck a thing, or is it something like, do we really make our own luck by our own attitudes and, you know, what we bring to the table? So the lucky spoon is kind of me playing with that idea of sort of, you know, do we hold on to these objects as little talismans of luck? What really are we holding on to? Is it something out there? Is it something in here?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, absolutely. Oh God, we're never going to get through all of these questions. Perhaps afterwards, this is going to be posted on the YouTube channel. Maybe you could have a look at some of the questions and maybe post some answers online.
Yeah, definitely.
Or something like that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But it's an absolute joy, and it's been wonderful. We've had so many amazing comments saying how enthralling it is just to watch you and to listen to you, and I bet that there's going to be loads of really imaginative writing done at home now. I know after the last session we had a couple of pictures posted from children who decided they wanted to go and write their own books, and I can see a flurry of children now going and starting a writing journal.
Yeah, do it.
Who was it, who was your teacher?
Oh, Mr. Dunham.
Mr. Dunham, inspired by Mr. Dunham's writing journal. Vashti, thank you so much for joining us. That was amazing, and it's fantastic I could listen to you talking about it all day.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad. I just wish I could see all your lovely faces out there, because I miss it. I miss going to schools and I miss seeing people. But you know what? We've all got to just, you know, look after each other and stay safe. And you know what? We can make things happen if we really want to. We can
This is the perfect opportunity now to create our own amazing worlds. While we're trapped indoors, we can travel in our imaginations.
Exactly, that's what I say. So thank you so much, Rachel. And I'm sure you'll have, like, if people haven't read the books, they want to pick them up, you've got your own sort of links, haven't you?
We've been working with 3 wonderful indie bookshops, so Mostly Books, Chicken and Frog, and Niche Comics, and they're prepped and ready for you to order the books through them, and they can deliver them to you wherever you are in the country. So
that's brilliant. Hooray for the indies. I'd say. Keep battling on and bringing us imagination in these days. So yeah, big thanks to all of them for doing that as well. Thank you to you for having me.
Thank you everybody at home for tuning in and watching, and for joining us and just keeping the book love alive even in lockdown. And I'm just really, really grateful for all the support we've had for this online festival. So thank you everybody. And yeah, that's it from us. We'll be back again tomorrow with David Litchfield, and with Harriet Muncaster, and with Kieran Millward Hargrave. So until then, feel free to go and check things out on social media, tweet Vashti, talk to her about what you've seen today,